guys, welcome to today's vlog. I am going, as you can tell by the title, I am going to Shakespeare Festival. This will be my third time going and I'm so excited. We're seeing more plays than ever before and I am just so pumped. So I wanted to make sure I got this vlog started. We're actually leaving tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, July 26th, and like I said, we're leaving in the morning. So I wanted to get this ready so that it's done and I can just do my montages, discussions of the plays, all that jazz. So I'm going to start by talking about what plays we're planning to see. So I'm going with my friend Coriolanus, who does my podcast with me. Like I said, it's our third year going and we are so excited. This year they're actually putting on 4 Shakespeare plays, which is actually unusual. They usually do about 2 or 3, but due to the fact that one of the plays they were originally going to put on that was not Shakespeare ended up having some water damage to something, I'm not sure what, they decided to change that play, which was West Side Story, into the only obvious choice, Romeo and Juliet. So it's still a very similar story, obviously, but they are doing Romeo and Juliet instead. And then the other 3 Shakespeare plays we are seeing are Coriolanus, Timon of Athens, and Midsummer Night's Dream. So definitely a great year for Shakespeare Festival if you like the Shakespeare side of it. They also do some other plays, and so they're doing 2 other ones. The 3 other ones, sorry. The 2 that we're seeing are Emma the Musical, as in Jane Austen's Emma. Very excited about that. And then The Play That Goes Wrong, which is a great comedy. If you haven't seen that before, it's really a lot of fun. The other one that they're doing that we're not seeing is A Raisin in the Sun. I wouldn't have minded seeing that one, but it just didn't work into our schedule very well. And really it came down to a choice between The Play That Goes Wrong and A Raisin in the Sun, and we just decided we wanted a little bit more humor mixed in with all of the other Shakespeare stuff. So yes, that's what we decided to go with. But I am very, very, very excited. So excited. We're planning to do a special episode for our podcast on one of the plays that we see. We don't know which one yet. We'll see which one stands out to us as we see it performed. And yeah, it's just gonna be great. I love Shakespeare Festival. I did want to mention, I don't know how much reading we're going to get done. It tends to fill up our time, especially because in the mornings, so each day we'll see a matinee and then an evening performance, so that takes up most of our afternoons. And then in the mornings they do seminars where they discuss the plays from the day before and do like Q&As and stuff like that, and I really like that. And so does my friend, so we'll definitely be attending those. And those go from like 9 to 11, and then from 11 to 12 they'll have like actor and costume seminars that we may or may not go to, and then there's a bookstore there that we'll probably go to. So there's several things we'll be able to do, but if we have time and I get the chance, I wouldn't mind reading, obviously. So I thought I'd let you know what's going on with that. So right now I actually was reading The American by Henry James, and I got about, technically it was like 75 pages in. It was like 120, but the first like 30 something are notes and stuff, an introduction. So I read like about 75-80 pages of it, which is still a pretty good chunk, and I just was not feeling it at all. Wow, that just kind of blended together. Anyway, so I was just not really interested in the characters, and it started to wax a little bit more philosophical, which is a type of classic that I just don't get into. It's these stories, I would say, what are some examples? A lot of Russian classics can be like this, where their way they develop the characters just doesn't click with me, and then a lot of it is just discussing these abstract, existential, philosophical ideas that I don't care. I don't want to read that. Like, I want a story with great characters. That's what I want to read. And so it was kind of just getting into that realm, and like I said, I already didn't really care about the characters, and the only reason I was tempted to continue with this was because of what it says on the back and the synopsis. I was very curious to how we get to where that is. Yeah, I just decided, you know what, I really don't care, and I just have a feeling I'm just not going to care. Like, even the discussions, the conversation, the dialogue is just not hitting me, and I like dialogue as long as it's very character and relationship building, and I just did not feel like it was. I feel like it was trying to get me to like the main character, but I just didn't. It was trying too hard to characterize him. Like, most of what I read in those 75 to 80 pages was about him and the way he saw the world. Like, it was literally just talking about that, and it was like his travel log, but not in an interesting way. It was literally just, he's like, oh, he went to this place and he toured this place, and this is how he interacted with it, and this was how he felt about the tour guide or whatever. And I was like, I don't care. I do not care. And then, especially when the whole idea that's talked about on the back. I'm not going to go into all of it because I think part of it is not spoilery, but it does come into play a little bit later, so I don't want to mention that, but it does talk a little bit about him wanting to get married to a specific woman, and there's been like, we've met the woman and their conversation was like just like a couple of things back and forth, and that's it. And we're supposed to believe that he's super attracted to and interested in her, and I'm like, what? I don't even feel like she's a character. She was just like a person that, like a figure of a thing that showed up. Like, there was no characterization with her beyond what another character said about her, and even what that character said about her was so vague, and I was like, nope, I'm not into that. So unfortunately, yes, I DNF'd this. Let me know if you think that this actually gets better in a way that would appeal to me, and maybe I'll try again. I'll keep it for a little bit, just to see if anybody says anything about it. Also, if you know of a good Henry James novel, let me know. I have read both Daisy Miller and The Turn of the Screw. I did not really care for The Turn of the Screw, but I did like Daisy Miller, so yeah, if that helps you know what I might like about him. I do have The Portrait of a Lady, which I may pick up at some point. I've heard a lot of people find that boring too, though, so we'll just have to see. But yeah, if you have Henry James recommendations based on what you know about my tastes, then please let me know. Or if you think The American I actually would end up liking it, because it's not like I was miserable reading it. It was just one where, well, I'm getting back into more of a reading mood after a slump, and so there's part of me that's like, I'm good to just read. Like, I'm kind of in that mode where I'm like, I just want to read things, and it's just great, and see what happens. But then last night I couldn't sleep because I was too excited about my trip, and I was just thinking things through, and I was like, you know what, like, there is zero reason why I should keep reading this. Like, I'm not enjoying myself really. The only thing I'm enjoying about it is the fact that I'm reading, and so I want to read, and so I was like, I don't think that's worth my time. Basically, I may as well just stop here and try to read something that I actually will get into. So I don't really know actually what I want to read next. So I have 6 books that I'm deciding between, and I actually posted on Instagram some emojis, a poll with emojis, and asked people to vote. And so by the end of today, we'll see, or just later today, I'll see what people say, and we'll decide from there. So the first book I have, most of these are a little more pacey. None of them are classics. I just was like, you know what, maybe I just need something pacey that I can get through pretty quickly is what I want. Something that I can read fast. So first of all, I have here The Shadow of Perseus by Claire Heywood. This is a retelling of Medusa as well as Danae? And Andromeda, so 3 women who are involved with Perseus in one way or another. I read The Daughters of Sparta earlier this year and really liked it, and this is her newest release. I did pre-order this and have been excited to pick it up. This was probably, of my pre-orders, the one I was most excited for, so I would not mind reading this. It probably is a little more slow character driven, but it's under 300 pages, so I feel like I could fly through it pretty quickly. Oh, the emoji I put for this was a snake because Medusa, obviously. Then I have Pirate Latitudes by Michael Crichton. This book is what it sounds like. It's a pirate book, and that's all I really know about it and all I want to know about it. I believe it follows an older pirate captain in Jamaica in 1665, it looks like. So that's all I know about it. That's all I need to know. I just kind of want to read it and see what happens. When I looked it up, it said it was a pretty pacey, fast-paced novel, and like, look at the font on that. Huge. Like, this looks huge just like that, but it's not even 450 pages. It's like 439 pages, and the font is huge. So I think I could read this so fast. So I did A Skull and Crossbones for this one. Then I have Lovely War by Julie Berry. I don't know how fast-paced this one is, but I feel like the romance of it is going to be what pulls me in. And I just want something that makes me feel excited. You know what I'm saying? Even if this makes me sad, like, that's okay. I just need something that makes me want to squeal in one way or another at some point. Anyway, and so this is about, I believe there's 2 love stories, one in World War I and one in World War II, and it's narrated by the Greek gods, which is just fascinating. I've heard incredible things about this. In fact, I think most people I've heard read it have really liked it. So this one's definitely a little bit of a chunkier, smaller font size kind of book. So We'll see. I don't know how fast it will be read, but it looks like the chapters are really short, so that always helps. Anyway, for this one I ended up putting a French flag on as my emoji because of the Eiffel Tower that's on the front. I'm assuming part of this takes place in France. So anyway, or maybe, oh, it looks like Belgium, maybe. I'm confused. Why is there the Eiffel Tower if there's no Paris? Anyway, doesn't matter. This is a potential for that, and like I said, I used the French flag. Then I was thinking potentially some fantasy could be nice, so I put on here Babel or Babel by R.F. Kuang. This one is a chunkier one, but I'm okay with that. Again, I just want something magical and fun in some way, whether that be romance or literal magic or pirates. Like, I just want something like that. So anyway, I have been dying to read this. I'm not going to lie, but I just haven't been quite in the right position to yet since I bought it a couple months ago. But I believe it takes place in alternate history in 1828. And I believe that Babel or Babel is a tower of education, like it's a college of some kind, and they study magic there. That's all I really know. Oh, and that and I also know that the main character, I believe, is from somewhere in Asia and comes over to study at Babel or Babel. I think he studies like magical languages or something. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Oh, silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars. So that's very fascinating, actually. I'm very curious about the commentary that this will make on differences in culture and translations between culture, because yeah, that sounds interesting. Anyway, this one will probably take me a while, so part of me like doesn't want this to win, but also I really want to read it, so part of me does. So like, look at that font. That is small, and this is not a small book. It's like, oh, it's definitely over 500 pages. So anyway, we'll see. I'm still willing to read it though, like I said. But yes, this one I have represented by an open book emoji. Then I have a couple other new releases. So first of all, I have the Frugal Wizard's Guide Handbook for Surviving Medieval England by Brandon Sanderson. This was one of the recent Secret Project releases, and this is the only one of the three that is not in the Cosmere. And I know they don't have to be read in order because they're just kind of for fun, even the Cosmere ones. But I have been wanting to read Sanderson's books, or the Cosmere books, in order based on publication date. I've wanted to reread what I've already read and then read the things I haven't read yet, and so I didn't want to read those quite yet because I do want to do that. And I'm only on Mistborn, the first trilogy, so, and I haven't even started that. So yeah, it's gonna be a while, but this one does not have that problem because it's just a separate, its own story. So I have this. I don't know a ton about it. I believe that there's someone who has forgotten, I think they were transported back in time to medieval England and don't remember why, I think, or don't remember who they are. I'm not 100% sure what they have forgotten specifically, but I've heard this is a lot of fun. I've heard there's kind of two stories involved, one being the story that's told on the page and another that is like some of the pictures and stuff that are it's being told through, but I'm not sure. But anyway, this isn't very long and it's a nice fun fantasy, and that's what I want. So I put a wizard emoji for this one. And then I have another pirate book, but it's a fantasy pirate book, and that is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This has received mixed reviews, I would say. I think a lot of people have loved it, but there's been a few who've been just okay with it. I don't think I've heard of anybody who hated it. It's mostly just been like okay or love. But this follows a middle-aged woman who used to be a notorious pirate, but now she's just a mom and working and just living an honest life. Her pirate days are over, but something comes up and she is called to do one last job, so to speak. And I believe she ends up, and I believe it actually takes place in the 1400s, maybe, like it's an alternate history or a fantasy historical kind of setting. Yeah, so a little bit different for sure from Pirate Latitudes, but still also a pirate book. So I feel like this could be a lot of fun. I have not read the David Bad trilogy by this author, and I know a lot of people love that. So this, I feel like, could be a good introduction, at least into her writing style. I mean, obviously this was written later, so she's probably improved a lot over time in her writing style with this, but it still will be a nice introduction and a lot of fun. So for this one, I did an anchor for that one. So we'll see what ends up winning. I'm really okay with any of them. We'll just see what ends up happening. This clip has gone on far too long, so I'm going to stop here. I will let you know later tonight when I look exactly what book was chosen, or I'll do at least a little montage clip potentially of that. And then I'll let you know as we go along how the plays turn out and any hauls I may have by the end of it. So you are getting a lovely ready for bed Tori to end this vlog because I just want to get this kind of wrapped up. So final thoughts on the trip. You would have seen a little montage of things. I don't think I got as much footage as I had hoped for, but we did have a blast either way. And hopefully you got enough that you got a basic idea of what we were seeing without me obviously recording the plays themselves, because that is not accepted, not okay. But I did want to kind of rank things, give you a basic overview of my feelings about how it all went. Generally, it was amazing. They have an amazing ability to find such great actors for this festival every year. I'm so impressed. As for how I felt about the plays, let's start from my least favorite and go to my favorite. All of them I enjoyed, at least on some level. So even my least favorite, it was primarily due to personal preference. So my least favorite was Coriolanus. They decided to do it in semi-modern times, so they have like phones and tablets and they're wearing jeans and normal clothing. But it's not like it's America or anything like that. Like it's still, they're using the same place names. Like it's still a very general kind of feeling. It's just kind of not a real setting, I guess, but it is more modern as opposed to being set in like Rome or even Elizabethan England, which was fine. They mostly did that because I guess one of the other plays they're doing was Timon of Athens, and those two plays are very similar in a lot of what they're doing, and so they wanted to make sure that the two plays were very different as far as costumes and stuff, so it was easier to separate them in your mind. But anyway, yes, Coriolanus, I bought one of the souvenir programs, and in it talks about, it has a director's note that says that it's a very testosterone, probably one of the most testosterone driven plays by Shakespeare, and I definitely could see that. It's very political and like warfare heavy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just not personally to my taste. And so while it was very interesting, and I think it lends itself to very interesting discussions about leadership and democracy and the power of the people, groupthink problems, as well as just various forms of government, performance, it just wasn't quite my cup of tea. So I didn't love that one, but I did enjoy it. I'm glad we saw it, and it was very interesting to compare to Timon of Athens. I would say my next favorite, there's 3 of the plays that I saw that I really don't know how to organize quite, because they're all pretty far above Coriolanus, so it feels weird to put any of them just above it, but like I kind of have to. So give me a second to think. Okay, I think I have an idea of what order I want to put them in, but keep in mind that they're all far above Coriolanus, and it honestly could change. These next 3, the order could change depending on my mood and the day. So I'm going to say The Play That Goes Wrong is next up, but only because it's not necessarily a super thought-provoking play, it's just a comedy, and so it's fun and funny and incredible. Like, it takes a lot of ingenuity and core strength. There's a lot of stunts involved in this play. If you don't know anything about it, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's basically they're doing a murder mystery play. It's like a small community theater doing a murder mystery play, but then everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong, and it's super, super funny. Love it so much, but it really is just funny. And so as far as like interesting things to say about it, I'll just say that the actors did an incredible job. This was my 3rd time seeing this play. I've seen it once in London, and then I saw it once at a more local theater to me, and then once this 3rd time at the Shakespeare Festival. And I would say this is probably my favorite. Well, I think this one and the London version are tied as my favorite of the 3 performances of this that I've seen. I did like my local one as well. It wasn't like I didn't like it. It was just it didn't hit me as much as the humor in these other versions or adaptations performances. Anyway, so I just liked this one a little bit better than that, but it's always such a fun time. Definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it before, because it really is just such a laugh, and it's not terribly long. So yeah, definitely a good one to check out that's very entertaining. And in this particular one, like I said, the actors did incredible. I was amazed. I'm always, like I said at the beginning of this clip, I'm always amazed by the actors they get at the Shakespeare Festival. So anyway, then I think I'm going to put, oh gosh, this is so hard. I'm going to say Emma for the sake of this next, but I think probably my enjoyment level was slightly higher for Emma, just by personal preference and the love I already have for Emma over Timon of Athens will be the next one, but Timon of Athens was a little more thought-provoking for me. So let's start with Emma. It was the only musical we saw this year. Well, it was the only one they were putting on, and they did a great job on that too. All of their voices were lovely. A few little nitpicks I had with it. They had, first of all, Mr. Elton be a little bit Mr. Collinsy, and like, while they are similar characters in various ways, I think Mr. Elton is a little bit less socially inept compared to Mr. Collins, and they played up a little bit of that social awkwardness for sure, which I didn't love, just personal taste, but it wasn't like a bad thing. Like, I completely understand why people take it that direction, his character that direction. It just wasn't my thing. The other thing that bothered me, and most of my other issues besides that, have to do more with the writing of the musical itself, so the person who created it, as opposed to this particular performance. But they just make Mr. Knightley look so awful, and I'm not saying that he isn't kind of abrasive, especially if you're not used to his style of approach, but like, to me, I've always been like, when he is making criticisms of Emma, she's used to it, and not in an unhealthy way. She just is like the kind of person who can take it the way it's meant to be taken, and that's why they make a good couple. But in this musical version, everything he said for the first half of the play before intermission was all of the negative things that he says in the book, and there's nothing to cushion it at all. Like, I feel like in the book there's a few moments where he is giving Emma some credit, he's showing some level of kindness, or maybe he says some sort of critique or admonishment in a little bit more of a softer, friendlier way. But in this, he just felt mean, and so I was kind of like, I don't know about this. The second half, it got better for sure, but I was in the first half like, oh, he's saying all the things he does say in the book. It's not like it was wrong. It was just done in a way that made him seem even worse to me, which I was just like, oh, I hate that. Anyway, so that was an issue. But yeah, overall it was great. I like how they explored the relationship with Jane Fairfax, especially at the end in this musical. I really want a good Jane Fairfax retelling, or at least an adaptation of Emma to come out that has a little bit more for Jane Fairfax, because she is one of my favorite Jane Austen characters. I know that's so random, but there's just something about her and like her story and her relationship with Emma that I just really find very interesting in that book. So anyway, but I did like that it gives a little bit more to her than I think sometimes movie adaptations I've seen have done. So anyway, that was really good. The girl who played Harriet was so cute and earnest and just great. She was just very kind, just socially awkward, and she was much more extroverted than I usually see her played, so that was really a lot of fun to see. Then, like I said, up next I have Timon of Athens, and that one I really was surprised at how much I liked. I actually went into it knowing that it was considered a less popular work and in some ways kind of difficult to put on, so I kind of went into it being like, I don't expect a lot, especially because we had started with Coriolanus, so I was kind of already in like this, oh, these lesser known Shakespeare plays, I'm sure this isn't going to be that great. But actually it was really good. It's very much a philosophical play, especially the second half. Like most of the second half takes place in one location, and most of it is just Timon talking. Like it's kind of a big long monologue soliloquy by him with a few chopped up bits as characters come to visit him and stuff at his cave. But it was very interesting. It was a very interesting story and very relevant, I think, for nowadays. They have seminars in the mornings, which you would have seen a few clips of, where they talk about the plays that were performed the day before. It's kind of like a Q&A session with the dramaturge, which if you don't know what that means, like I didn't originally, it's basically someone who's in charge of like cutting down the play, specifically with Shakespeare, or just giving like more context for the play and for the characters themselves, so that you can help the director and the actors really bring it together in a very realistic way. And yeah, with Shakespeare in particular, they actually make the script that they're going to be using for that particular performance. So if you didn't know, basically every time you see a Shakespeare play, they edit it. It is not the full play because there's a lot of repetition in Shakespeare's plays due to the culture surrounding watching the plays at the time. There was a lot of yelling, talking, shopping, like people weren't just sitting and watching the play back then, and so they did a lot of repetition to make sure you were still getting it if you weren't hearing everything. And there's just some language in it that's a little more dense than others, so it's a lot of adjustments like that. And also the person, because it's in the public domain, people putting it on can basically do whatever they want with it, and so you can play with what exactly it is about the story that you most want to hear and focus on as far as themes and plot points and stuff. And so yeah, so anyway, that is who leads the seminars. And you know what, I told you all of that and I can't even remember what I was going to say about what she said about Timon of Athens. Well, if it comes back to me, I'll come back to that, but suffice it to say, there was a lot of existential exploration. Oh, that's right, I was going to mention that she said that it's a play that it's never been super popular, but it does have resurgences whenever there is widespread economic concerns. And so that's kind of why it's had a resurgence in the past few years, because it is a lot about money and materialism. And so it's very applicable to a lot of things we're seeing right now, but also it was just a very interesting story because it's a tragedy and you feel bad for him to start with, and kind of the way it was performed this time, he is a much more sympathetic character, where I guess the seminar director was mentioning that in other adaptations of it, he comes across a little less sympathetic, especially in the second half, because he becomes so hateful. And so it's very interesting because you don't fully pity him and you don't see him as a complete hero, and yet you do feel bad for him. It just kind of ends up that a lot of his suffering really is was his own fault, and not his own fault in just like he was making bad decisions, but his own fault in that he had opportunity to have those connections and to value relationships over money, and he chose not to and became like all of those people he hated in a lot of ways. And so anyway, it was a very thought-provoking play, really enjoyed it, very well done. Then my top two, number two is going to be A Midsummer Night's Dream. This was such a fun play to watch. It was my first time seeing A Midsummer Night's Dream, and it was just very well done. The actors, as usual, were incredible. The costumes were beautiful, and the set was beautiful. I don't really know what else to say beyond that. I'll say probably one of my favorite characters in that is Helena, and the actor that played her did an amazing job. It was really sad because there was only one play that the Shakespeare Festival did this year that we weren't able to see, and that was A Raisin in the Sun. And her other play, so pretty much all of the actors do 2 plays, which is just crazy. But anyway, her other play was A Raisin in the Sun, so I didn't get to see her twice like I would have liked to, because she just had so much talent and I really was impressed with her. Another one I really loved was the girl who played Puck, or Robin Goodfellow. She did a phenomenal job. She really felt very otherworldly and was just very charming and fun to watch. So yes, I really liked her, and it was great. And then number one was Romeo and Juliet, and it was funny because I guess a lot of people there said that this was their favorite Romeo and Juliet they've ever seen, and in my head I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, because it was my first time seeing it live, and I was like, I don't know if it's a good thing or not that my first Romeo and Juliet was, according to all of these people, the best one they've ever seen, especially these people who have seen it a lot. I was like, I mean, that's cool in some ways, but then you're like, is it all downhill from here? But it was amazing. They really brought out the side characters in ways that I think was just incredible, and then the main Romeo and Juliet did an incredible job as well. They had the attention of the audience just in the palm of their hands the whole time. Like, you could just feel the tension in the audience so strong. It was amazing. A few favorite aspects that maybe are a little different compared to other productions. Lord and Lady Capulet were very sympathetic characters, and it was really amazing how they brought to life this true relationship between parents and their children, because I think often they can be kind of almost tertiary characters, not even secondary characters, and they really were brought to life in this one. Juliet, her soliloquy monologue before she ends up taking the fake potion was beautifully done. They were saying in the seminar that usually it's performed in kind of a very quiet manner, like she's just very pensive, but in this she's really afraid, and so she's like yelling and talking very fast and like standing on her bed and like looks like she's panicking and really nervous to do this. So that whole scene was amazing, and it actually got some applause just in and of itself. It was probably one of the loudest moments of applause in the whole thing because it was just that amazing. The grief also during her fake death, when all her family and the nurse think she's dead, was incredible. A lot of other people say, like, I don't think I've ever cried during that scene, but we cried during this one. I teared up watching that as well. There's also this great scene, if you're unfamiliar with it, where Romeo, after killing, sorry, some spoilers. But after killing Tybalt, he's really upset, obviously, and he basically threatens suicide in Friar Lawrence's cell, and Friar Lawrence has this conversation and is like, what are you doing? Like, you have good things, you have Juliet, like, let's focus on these good things. And there's a sweet moment where after Friar Lawrence does this, he kneels down by him and Romeo gives him a hug, just like a young boy, and it was just very heart-wrenching to see. That made me tear up as well. And yeah, the exploration of the grief in this adaptation was really amazing. So anyway, it was a really great play. I'm so glad I saw it. It was beautifully done. The director, it was her first time, I think, directing, but she's been in many a Romeo and Juliet, and so it's her favorite. She loves it, and you could definitely tell she really put her heart into this production, and so it was really amazing. Really loved it. And and yeah, overall it was just a great trip. It always is. I absolutely love it. And we found out what they're doing next year. Shakespeare wise, they're doing Much Ado About Nothing, which I'm very excited about. They're doing Taming of the Shrew, Henry VIII, and A Winter's Tale. So really great options there. And then they're doing 3 others. They're doing The 39 Steps, which is a murder mystery one, another one. And then I can't remember what the other 2 are called. None of them are musicals next year for various reasons. One is about the last days of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, and then the other one is about a woman who was an astronomer and who's kind of fighting to make her mark in that field. So that's all I really remember, especially as a woman. That's all I really remember, but I can't remember what they're called. I know the astronomer one I have a coworker who said that she really liked it. She saw it. So I had heard of that one before. The Martin Luther King one I hadn't. So anyway, that's what they're doing next year. Very exciting. We'll see which ones we end up doing. I'd love to get to the point where we can see all of them, but in order to do that, we need obviously another set of tickets, which not that these plays are very expensive, but I mean, they're decent. Like the lowest for a lot of them is like $60. I mean, for some it's like $25, but anyway, they're not that expensive. But I mean, after you're already paying for 6 plays, it's gonna add up to, if you want to do 7, and then it would have to add another night as well, hotel night, so there's that expense as well. Anyway, plus then you have to take another whole day off work, so it's a little bit of a work in progress, but hopefully we'll be able to one day see all 7 or all of the ones that they end up doing a given year. But before I end, let me show off a little bit of a haul I got. So every year we do get a t-shirt. So they always have t-shirts for all of the plays. So every year we get a t-shirt. The past 2 years, we've actually both gotten the same one. So the first year we went, we got Richard III. Last year we got a King Lear shirt, and then this year though we decided to each get different ones, which was kind of fun. So she got Timon of Athens. I'm fairly certain. I think she just liked it. Was a darker kind of look as far as the colors, and she liked that, and then it was an interesting enough place she went for that. I went for Romeo and Juliet because it was by far my favorite, and I really liked their design. So that's what that is. So you see the balcony, and then there's swords as the, I don't know, poles, whatever you want to call them. So anyway, kind of cool. I really liked that. I got kind of a big one because they only had larges or like 2XLs, so I probably could have used a medium, but I just went with a large just to have it since they clearly didn't have very many left. So anyway, there's that. And then I got a few books. So first of all, I have started collecting the Folger Shakespeare library. I may start collecting the Arden as well, but I decided to go with this first just to have them, and yeah, it's great. The more I go to Shakespeare Festival, the more I love Shakespeare. So anyway, I'm okay with having multiple editions. I originally wanted to get either Coriolanus or Timon of Athens because those were the 2 that I do not have already. I had Romeo and Juliet and A Midsummer Night's Dream already, but they didn't have any of those. Well, they had Coriolanus, but so Folger has like the bigger editions and the mass market paperback editions. I started off with the mass market paperback edition, so that's what I've been getting, and they only had Coriolanus and the bigger edition. So unfortunately that was just not going to work for me. So I ended up getting Titus Andronicus, which I have read before. It's definitely a very intense play. If you know anything about it, it's probably the most violent of Shakespeare's plays, but I did end up getting that because that one was one that I did not already have, but I have already read, and so I was like, that's probably going to work best for me. Then I got a couple of kind of Shakespeare conversation history type books. So first of all, I got Mad About Shakespeare, Life Lessons from the Bard by Jonathan Bate, and it's just what it sounds like. It's a bunch of exploration of questions and domestic themes and stuff that is in Shakespeare that's relatable, and that's really all I needed to know. So sounds very interesting, and it might help with our podcast, as that's kind of in the realm of what we do on there. And then this next one so it was available in the gift shop, but there's a local used bookstore we went to, and it was actually there in pretty decent condition for cheaper. So I was like, and I couldn't find anything else I really wanted at that used bookstore, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get this, so I'm at least supporting them a little bit, and I'm getting something that I'd like to read that I can get cheaper here. So win-win. And that one is The Shakespeare Wars, Clashing Scholars, Public Fiascos, Palace Coups by Ron Rosenbaum. So it's basically just discussing a lot of the history of debates and issues that have arisen from people studying Shakespeare. So it sounds very interesting, and I don't know, I'm excited to see how it goes whenever I get around to it. It's probably not going to be for a while because I'm me, but I would love to read this sometime soon, honestly. I've kind of liked the idea of reading a little bit more scholarship on Shakespeare because earlier this year I read or listened to the audiobook for Death by Shakespeare, and I really, really liked that. That was just basically about all the different kinds of deaths in Shakespeare plays and kind of the history of them and the realities, the medical realities of those kinds of things, and it was really interesting, and it adds a lot of dynamics to the experience of reading Shakespeare and learning about Shakespeare. And so I'm like, I'd like to get more into that. So that's why I got both of these. They had a lot of other options. They had so many books there. As you can imagine, there's so many books in the world about Shakespeare. But anyway, then I just got a couple of other little things. So first of all, I'm a full-time supervisor for my store, but there's also part-time supervisors, and the store is divided in half between two different, one's more religious-based, they're both religious-based, but one is more dedicated to specific things within the church that I belong to, and the other side is a bookstore. So it has fiction, nonfiction, it does have a lot of church-oriented, religion-oriented books, but it also has like Regency romance and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm in charge of the more religious stuff, and on each side there's a full-time supervisor and a part-time supervisor. So my part-time supervisor just had her birthday, and so I decided to get her a little something, nothing too big. It was kind of hard for me to find something that I felt like she would appreciate because it's not like she's a huge Shakespeare person. She's actually more of a animal person, and there just wasn't a lot available. So I decided, just as kind of a thank you and a happy birthday, to just get her a little Romeo and Juliet bookmark. So it's super cute. It says, "A rose by any other name would smell sweet. Romeo and Juliet," of course. It has Utah Shakespeare Festival at the bottom, and then just kind of this nice rose decoration. So just a cute little thing, nothing too dramatic, but something to just show my appreciation for her. And then this last thing has nothing to do with Shakespeare. I'm not sure why on earth it was in this gift shop, but I loved it, so I just decided I had to have it, and that is Harry Potter playing cards, specifically the Hufflepuff edition. They had a bunch of playing cards from various different things, and each of the houses had their own set. They currently only had Hufflepuff and Slytherin left, but I was like, those are too cute for me to not look at that. Look at those. I'm dead. So I was like, they're too cute, and they were only $7. I just decided to get them very spur of the moment, and had, like I said, nothing to do with Shakespeare, but I decided I wanted to have it. So anyway, that is my haul. One of these years I really want to get, they have Utah Shakespeare Festival sweatshirts, and they're just kind of expensive enough that it's hard for me to decide to get it when I'm kind of I'd almost rather have a book like this. But they are so well made. They make them so nice. The lining of them is always so soft. And this year they actually had really cute colors. So I was kind of I really want one, but I just don't feel like I want to spend that much right now, especially because we're starting to look to see if we can move out soon. And I just don't want to overspend if I don't have to, basically. So maybe it will just be my 5th year thing, so I won't get it next year. I'll just get it the year after that for a 5-year anniversary and be like, look, I'm finally gonna get a Utah Shakespeare Festival top. Maybe, hopefully by then I'll be in a better financial place. Right now it's just kind of, post-college, figuring out what the heck I actually want to do. Post-college, for someone who ended college still completely oblivious to what exactly was right for her to do. So that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, I'm going to end this clip here. It's so dang long. I apologize, both to you guys watching and to my future self who has to edit this. But thank you for coming along with me. If you did, if you have seen any of these plays or have any thoughts on them just from reading them or anything, please let me know down below, as I would love to hear. If you've read any of the books I mentioned, also feel free to let me know about that. I would love to hear that. Of course, keep spoilers to a minimum if possible, especially with Babel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!